Not done one of these for a while. I need to be in the right frame of mood for it. It's Beer and Bollocks. Right, today's ale, I've already had one of them, has been supplied by Phil. Thank you, Phil. Popped over in the week. It is Christmas Eve. Happy Christmas. Popped over in the week and bought me some ales. And this one is a Great Beer, Real Character, Purity Brewing Company, Pure Ubu, Amber Ale, 4.5%, sustainably brewed in Warwickshire. Pure Eco. Making the difference since 2005. Beer Chevese Ula Star Laurel, award-winning Pure Ubu, is well-balanced, full-flavoured amber ale, named after the faithful canine friend, Tess, often found lazing around the farm. She's affectionately earned the name Useless Bloody Urchin, shortened to Ubu, and a beer was named in her honour. What do you know? That's fucking nice, isn't it? Right. I'm not pregnant, so I can have I can drink this one. You've always got to use a pry bar to get a bottle top off. I wish I had a bottle opener. Right, let's try Ubu. It's quite acidic. But it's not overly acidic. That's nice. Oh, I like that. Well, it's beer. Of course I like it. God's teeth. Right, I'm going to leave. I'm not working today, by the way. Christmas Eve and all that. So I come up here and I had to park my truck outside the unit because all my lads are home and the yard is just full of my son's cars. And I just thought, oh, I'll leave the truck up here and I'll walk home. I thought, while I'm here, I could do a chat. So, the last couple of sessions in this series, that's nice. Last couple of, the wife turned up. Well, the wife turned up. I had to stop and have a chat. So I've completely lost my train of thought now. What was I going to say? Right. So I think it was about the previous couple of previous versions of these B&B sessions. Has been more about chatting about current affairs and so forth. And some of the hate mail is actually slowing down. I'm joking. So I can feedback down below. Do you want current affairs or do you want stories from my past? Because this one's going to be a mix of the two of them, I think. And beer, of course. Beer is the common denominator here. And swearing. So, yeah, I think this is very nice. This one is Ubu. So, one thing, following on again from the last Beer and Bollocks and the Beer and Bollocks before that on electric vehicles, the world seems to be waking up to the reality of the environmental needs for electric vehicles. And I saw a particularly amusing debate. It was American. I don't know the source. I'm not going to share it here because I don't know the source. It was quite amusing in that the Americans are trying to close down heavy industry and want everyone to drive an electric vehicle. Yet you need X tens of times of increase in heavy industry in order to produce the electric vehicles. It's amusing. There are two sides to every coin, and it doesn't matter which side you listen to, they're going to present it from their perspective. So what you need to try and do is to gather all the information. That's what I try and do. Gather all the information from a variety of sources, do your research, and then come up with your conclusions. Because even your scientists seem to be split into two camps. Those that are the kind of the Armageddon, well, chicken licking, sky's falling in. And those scientists are saying it's a load of political bloody tax reasoning bollocks. And people believe them because they're scientists. No one believes a politician. But the scientists is kind of where it goes. So what's your background in science then? Oh, you're a food hygiene scientist. It's commenting on the climate. Fantastic. I don't know. It's. I'm going to say it again. It's all nonsense. I don't fully believe any of it. Anyway, I'm not a skeptic. I'm not still. I'm on the fence. Let's put it that way. So enough of electric car bollocks. I think it was amusing in the most. As he says, enough electric car bollocks, and carries on talking about. It's the Pixies, I tell you, it's the Pixies. But in our recent budget, they have declared now that from a given date in the future, they're going to start putting road tax onto electric vehicles. Oh dear. They're going to levy those. Now, it won't be long before I can't think of the word. The tax efficiencies, probably the best way of putting it, for having a company electric vehicle seem to be disappearing too. So perhaps, I don't know. Anyway, enough of that bollocks. So what's current news at the moment? Cold. Unseasonably cold snap, followed by unseasonably warm snap, followed by that little poison dwarf thing in Scandinavia, wearing 3 coats and a woolly hat, telling us all about climate change. Lucky lunatics have taken over. That's the problem. Anyway, I'll tell you one thing where they have taken over. Harry and Meghan. Now, I'm not going to go into any great detail on this. I didn't actually want to watch any of it, partly because I think it's none of my business, and secondly because I just know that it's just going to be out there kicking the royal family, and I kind of support the royal family. But my missus insisted on watching a couple of episodes of it, and so I think it was on Netflix, but it came out in 2 or 3 or 4 batches of 3 short episodes. Why they couldn't just make 3 fucking episodes, I don't know. The first one we watched was the most god-awful, boring coverage I have ever seen in my life. But I am assured now that no one has ever known love or unity or family like those two. Everyone else comes a very, very, very distant second. I find the whole thing a bit kind of shit, to be quite honest. I couldn't care less. I think some of the demands that have come out of it are odd. I think that a lot of the media responses have been predictably harsh, because they seem to be going out of their way to directly attack the media for invading their privacy, and then somehow allowing cameras to get even more exclusive exposure to their privacy, and that's all right, but it's not all right, but it is all right, but it isn't. So there's a certain, I was going to use the word hypocrisy, but it's the wrong word. There's a certain paradox, it's a good word, paradox in the whole debate, which I don't fully understand. I mean, from the bits I've seen, and I don't do the media, by the way, I don't do the news, I don't do the papers. I try and keep as far away from it as I possibly can. And when I want to research something, I'll Google and try and find as much as I possibly can on each side of the debate. Because like I've just said already, whoever's going to be writing an article is going to write it from their perspective, that makes their perspective seem the best. And then you'll see someone else use exactly the same facts, but presented slightly differently, to argue a completely counter counterpoint. So I don't do papers, but from what I have seen and from what I've heard, so what I've seen of the actual documentary, what I've heard from other people talking about it, it's going to be difficult to reconcile. Why would you burn your bridges anyway? Enough of that bollocks. So that's really kind of what else has been happening. COVID's on the up. There's a whole load of stuff now about whether COVID was real or not. And the only way I can really, because we didn't see the Armageddon that we were expecting, but then we were all locked down. Oh, apart from Boris, of course. Oh, poor Boris. Oh, poor Boris. Governments, politicians, are even in the complete and utter shamble, arse-face shamble that the leading party that are in at the moment. The opposition are just still nowhere near. Oh, chuck the lot of them in the North Sea. Honestly, fucking ridiculous. I don't even know where I'm going with this now. I'm lost. This is pleasant. So the whole, because I've got a couple of friends that are very much sceptical of the entire thing. One of them, doesn't amuse me to say, is a firm believer that somehow microchips were being injected into your arms as part of the vaccine, which is then tracking. But they don't think it's happening already. So all I can think is if I went back to Y2K bug, which everyone said after year 2000, and the Y2K bug, for those of you who are too young to remember that, you shouldn't be watching this channel because it's old farts on it. The Y2K bug was around a whole load of computer systems that would not recognise the rollover from 1999 to 2000 because a lot of lazy programming in computers only use the last 2 digits of the year code, and it wouldn't recognise 00 as being 2000, it'd recognise it as being 1900. So that's what Y2K bug effectively was, as simplistically as I can possibly put it. But the press at the time were forecasting, oh, aeroplanes are going to fall out of the sky, etc, etc, etc. You know, hospitals will close down, power plants will explode, and there was all of this. So I worked in IT at the time for a company called Entertainment UK, fantastic company, part of the Walrus Group. Loved that job. I was gutted when the Walrus Group went broke. That was a fantastic company. Anyway, I worked in our IT department, and I was part of the program of testing every single one of our pieces of code against Y2K. So we had disaster recovery centres where we simulated our particular systems when we rolled over from December to January, from 1999 to 2000. And where we identified a problem, we fixed it. Where we didn't identify a problem, we gave it a massive, great big tick. And there was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these programs. And where we had a supplier provided program, a piece of kind of like even if it was bespoke, but if it was supplier code that was written by them, we sought for them to do the testing so we didn't have to. And where they couldn't do the testing, we would basically say, right, we need to decommission that system then. So there was an incredible amount of work that went through. And we found dozens and dozens and dozens of examples where the Y2K bug would have caused problems in our fulfillment systems. So this was an entertainment product fulfillment and delivery system. And it was all, this is back in the days before everything was online. In fact, you couldn't even get a telephone that would do anything other than make telephone calls in those days. Sometimes you had a telephone that could actually, be a calculator, but that was it. That was as far as it went. So we're talking, old school. And there was a lot of effort was put into that. I know from a number of other acquaintances, friends that I've spoken to about, they were involved also in Y2K debugging, Y2K testing, and they went through much the same sort of scenarios where they identified a fault that might occur as a result of the date rolling from 1999 to 2000, and they fixed it. And when they couldn't fix it, they isolated it. And so, subsequently, and I was on call, I got paid £1,000 in overtime for working New Year's Eve 1999. Fucking hell, I mean, even I could be sober for that then. I mean, that was a lot of money back then, a lot of money now. And I was just on call. In case there was any problems, I was on call. Now, we worked in a... I mean, the data centres weren't... Our warehouses, distribution centres weren't even running at the time. But we wanted to make sure that they could run the following morning. And we were largely responsible for supplying all of the CDs, the DVDs, the LPs, the tape cassettes, odds and sods, bits and bobs to a number of very, very, very high profile high street chains nationwide. So the stuff had to go out. If the stuff didn't go out, because we didn't really want stuff to be sitting around on shelves, we provided them with enough stuff to last them a day or two. So stuff was going out every single day. So if our systems buggered up, then the products wouldn't be on the shelves, and the record labels and the production companies for the DVDs would be upset with us because we weren't able to get their stock into the right places at the right time. There was reputational damage, was highly likely here. So it was important we got it right. Of course, Y2K rolled over and nothing happened. It was a great success. What then happens is the wider public that weren't involved in all of this extensive testing turn around and say, oh, what a load of bollocks was spouted by the press, nothing fucking happened. No, I'll tell you why nothing fucking happened. It's because people like me were busting our arses to test and test and test and test and isolate and test and test and test prior to Y2K. So the Y2K scenario is one that I like to kind of push in the general direction of your skeptics out there. And skeptics are allowed to be skeptics. I like to be challenged. I like my thoughts to be challenged. I like my views to be challenged. And I like to explore new ideas all of the time. But I think when everyone is locked down and at home, there were some overreactions, and I'll go into those in a second, but there were some overreactions. But when the majority of people are locked down and at home, the spread of the virus was slowed dramatically. Now, I'm no medic. I've got no real understanding or background, but I do know that viruses mutate and evolve for their own survival. And maybe that lockdown period allowed the virus to mutate and evolve to such an extent where it no longer became the catastrophe that they were originally forecasting. Some of it might have been chicken licking, some of it might have been real, we don't know. Boris enjoyed his party, bless him. Was it a party? No. Might have been. Does he remember it? No. Well, it was a party then. Oh, fucking hell. I think what amused me, it didn't amuse me, what annoyed me so much about the whole fucking thing was the people running around shrieking about how he should be hung, drawn and quartered. Bollocks to that. There's an incredible amount of pressure there. If it was a party, it was a party. If it wasn't a party, it wasn't a party. It's all done and dusted. It's yesterday's, well, it's actually yesterday's news, today's chip paper. It's the way to put it. So, I don't even know where I'm fucking going with this again. This is nice beer though. But, I'll tell you what, I'm talking about the COVID as well. So, because of everyone being unlocked down, thank you, there is now two issues that are hitting us. First of all, the COVID is still out there, and it is running rife at the moment, but it's not killing everyone. We're not going to need to pop up Nightingale hospitals left, right and centre that will never be used. We will not see people dying on the streets, which never happened, and so forth. But what is being advised now is if you're not feeling well, stay at home. Well, I'm sorry, but that's fucking common sense. I never understood that when you've got a streaming cold, you insist on going to work. I don't understand this mentality. Chuck a sickie. You got a streaming cold. Why give it to everyone else? So that's going around, and the other issue that's occurring, because the COVID's now going around again, but it's less invasive. Or maybe the government's run out of money for furlough. I don't know. The other thing that's happening is because we weren't out and about for the last 2 years, things like the common cold and the flu bugs have evolved, and because people weren't getting them, because people weren't interacting, the flu virus protection is no longer as efficient as perhaps it could be, I am led to believe. I had a nasty cold the other day. Lasted about 2 days. Blew about 4.5 pints of rollies out of my nose, and then it was gone. I'm still alive? Fantastic. I don't know. I really don't. I don't know about all of that. The other thing that's occurring at the moment is the energy crisis. Now, I'm going to go for a quick comfort break, and I'm going to come back and talk about the energy crisis. Then we're going to talk about some fun stuff, because this is all boring bollocks. Right, okay. Energy crisis. There's a lot of people in this country and around the world that are struggling at the moment with energy prices, and are reverting to, okay, we hear the kind of the scare stories in the media, which I don't, fuck it. It's not bollocks. The prices are going up. We've seen it with the fuel prices at the pumps for diesel and petrol. I still don't understand why there's a 40 pence a litre differential between diesel and petrol. But then also heating oil is going up, gas is going up, electricity is going up. The interest rate is creeping up now. So we've had decades of cheap living, cheap cost of living. And now all of a sudden it's kind of like become a little bit variable, and people have become very comfortable with their outgoings on a monthly basis, and all of a sudden it's gone berserk. And great sympathies to all those people that are struggling out there. I don't get too fucking serious on this, Richard, do you? So let's open a 49er. This is a Ringwood ale, down near, very near where Red Shed lives. Ringwood and Dale. Dale didn't buy this from me. I bought this from the shop at the end of the road. It's a craft, rich and golden craft ale, 4.9%, beautiful. I like this one. Right, just going to open this. I don't know where I'm going with energy. I think it's all. My gut feeling is it's all entirely unnecessary. I think that a lot of it is being driven by this net zero thing that no one fucking signed up for, apart from governments, and an increasing number of people are starting to disbelieve. Now, I am no heretic. I'm a knob, but I'm not a heretic. Just straighten this this bugging me. This what's his name? This pry bar. I'm no heretic. Pardon me, the burp that was. That's better. I'm no heretic, but there are certain things that I think are engineered. I think that the governments of a number of countries are being encouraged to go towards net zero, and there are targets that are unachievable without dragging us all back to the Dark Ages, and without enormous suffering to individual folk, that are going to happen and are happening as a result of this drive towards net zero. Well, here's the thing, you see. Rather than we're going back towards the EV thing again, because This is all about living sustainably, isn't it? I think, in my view. And if more people were to live sustainably, and I hate the word carbon footprint, it drives me up the fucking wall. But if people were to live within this set parameter of carbons or footprints or whatever you want to call them, and not insist upon a brand spanking new iPhone every 15 minutes, maybe not just iPhones, maybe Android phones, maybe Windows phones, maybe whatever, maybe not insist on brand spanking new technology every 15 minutes, maybe not throw away a perfectly good and serviceable petrol vehicle to drive an electric vehicle, maybe not demolish a home which is still habitable to build something that is more efficient. And these are all things that we do as a society, as a species. Humanity is very wasteful. We're more wasteful, I think, than any other species on the face of the planet, because we will use things, or we'll create things, and then throw them away before they've reached the end of their useful life. There's no upcycling, there's no recycling. Well, there is recycling, but that's a fucking joke. There's no upcycling, there's no recycling, there's no using things until they can't be used anymore. Now, this is something that used to happen within my lifetime. I'm an old git, but I think one of the biggest mistakes that I made, so one of the biggest technology mistakes I've made over the last 30 years has been getting rid of a 30-year-old washing machine and replaced it with a brand new washing machine. The only reason I got rid of the 30-year-old washing machine was because it was rusting on the front cover and the bearing had gone on the drum again, which takes me, I don't know, one bearing and about half a day of effort to replace. So I just thought, sod it, let's get a new washing machine, so I'm fed up with doing this thing. Well, the new washing machine lasted 2 years, so we replaced it again. That one lasted 2 years. So we spent a lot more money, and that one's still with us. That's 10 years on. Am I going to ever get rid of that? No. Things have got far too complicated now as well. We're seeing it in cars. So the stuff I work with, you get an indicator switch, is physically part of the circuit of a wire that goes from the battery through to the bulb via a flashing unit. Modern cars, and when I say modern cars, cars that were made since 1994, 5, whatever, end up with ECUs in there. Why do you need an ECU in the middle of a circuit to make an indicator bulb flash? Why do you need a body control module to hook them all together? Because these are the things now, and I'm speaking from a car perspective because I understand cars, but these are the things now that are rendering a car as obsolete, because something will break and you'll go back to the main manufacturer, and the main manufacturer will say, yeah, we got one of those on the shelf, it's £2,000. You think, well, fuck that, the car's only worth 1,500 quid. I'll scrap it, I'll get another one, because of course they'll offer you a really good deal on their brand new electric car at the detriment to the planet. We're going on about that again, Richard. So I think it would do an awful lot more good if governments around the world were to scrap this fucking net zero, and I'm going to use this word carefully, bollocks, and actually move towards encouraging sustainability, living within your means, using stuff as long as you could possibly use it. And where, because I know there's some people out there that say, well, actually, I make Itchy Fanny 5000 bloody watches, and if people don't buy Itchy Fanny 5000 watches, then I'll be out of a job. Well, do you know what? There is a whole, we're talking an enormous revenue stream from what's, you've seen them popping up now, you've seen them, I've seen them, repair shops. They're brilliant. They're popping up left, right and centre. They're popping up in town centres. Well, they built a new bloody great big out of town shopping centre at enormous cost to the environment. The high streets are no longer relevant, so they're becoming obsolete. However, most of these high streets have been there for hundreds of years, and so the buildings are all listed, so they can't do anything with them, so they get boarded up or turned into charity shops. So we're seeing high streets have changed their identity. Now, pop-up repair shops is one of those things that I think we're going to see a lot more of. So your washing machine's fucked. Well, I'll tell you what, call the pop-up repair shop and they'll take it in and they'll do what I would do with it, which is replace the bearing on it. Or if they can't fix it, they'll salvage the usable working parts out of it and fix the next one down the line. And I think there is actually almost as much demand for that potentially as there is for brand spanking new. There's the phone. Oddly enough, it's very much on this subject here. My father-in-law's watch battery ran out, and my wife is down in Wickham, because I got the back off the watch, no problems at all, that's easy. I didn't have one of the batteries, so I just sent my wife down to Wickham because he's desperate for his watch. So I'll just get him to put a battery in it, give your father his watch back. He's 90, so he needs his watch, you know? So she went to the first place, 20 quid. Now, what I find interesting here is that I'm going on about pop-up repair shops and I'm going on about sustainable. And this, what's happened here is exactly what would happen with your with your 4-year-old itchy funny 5,000 motor car. When you go in there saying, oh look, the indicators don't work anymore. Oh, you need a new ECU. You need a new what's it called, body control, whatever it is. And that's going to cost you £4,000. What they've done here with my wife is say, she's gone to a jeweller's, I need one of these batteries for this watch, please, 20 quid. Fuck that, we'll have a new watch. Anyways, I've asked her to go somewhere else. She's going to just go pick up the battery, then I'll fit the battery, and it'll be back in his watch, and it shouldn't cost him more than a couple of quid, and his watch will be back up and running again. And that's really, I think, what needs to happen now, whole scale. On everything, that everything needs to, you need to have made an effort to rebuild it, or to get it working again. And it's difficult to push that message, because a lot of people out there would be, oh fuck it, I'll just buy another watch. But you don't need to buy another watch, you just need to buy a battery at a sensible price and have it fitted. 20 quid's not a sensible price. But what is a sensible price? Well, it's going to take me about 2.5 minutes, and the battery will cost 2 quid. Maybe a tenner. I don't know. Anyway, had it been a tenner, she probably would have had it done. 20 quid's just taking the piss. So yeah, I think about it. You'll see more and more pop-up repair shops, and I think people are going to. We need to push the message about sustainability and not chucking stuff away. Oh, it's old, I'll chuck it away. There was barely anything wrong with that washing machine I threw away, apart from the drum bearing, which was grumbling. It didn't stop it working, it was just grumbling. I was just, it's rusty on the front ballast. A tin of bloody emulsion I had in the shed would have fixed that. But I entered into a contract with the current retail environment of coughing up £700 for a machine that lasts me 2 years. There you go. So anyway, enough on that. Right, let's go to the non-current affairs, current news bollocks. Well, where do we go? Trouble is, I've had 2 phone calls now and it's knocked me off my stride. Now I need another tinkle. I don't. Where are we? Where should we go to? Where should we go to? It's funny actually, because I say funny. You might not find it funny. I find it fucking hilarious. In the most recent outtakes video, right at the tail end of it was some footage that I captured, and the idea of capturing the footage was the beauty of North Devon lanes, from a Series 2A Land Rover, my dad's, and just showing, you know, how capable and accomplished these things are. I love them. These old Landers, I love them. I don't know if you've noticed, but because my dad said, "Oh, great, yeah, we can do a video. You sit in the back of the Land Rover and take the video, and we'll go at the pub." The pub is the Baltimore at Yarddale. Steve Cotton, beautiful bloke, he's just fucking unbelievable. Linked to his YouTube channels down here. It's an insane environment. Now, my dad is not drinking at the moment. He's had a couple of health issues over the last couple of years. He decided that he's actually not going to drink that much anymore. So he was sober. However, my brother and I had consumed a number of pairs of pints each. And so the footage kind of really just descended into a complete fucking shambles. Beautiful, but a shambles. Now, what got me, both my brother and I are married. We both got our own families. We both live a reasonable distance, 100 miles apart. So we don't often get to socialise. But it did, that weekend, I've kind of no wives around, just me, my brother, my dad, in a pub, and up to shenanigans, just reminded me so much of growing up. He's only 13 months younger than me. He looks about 5 years older, I know, but he's only 13 months younger. And we went through a number of different phases of just doing silly things. So as initially as we grew up, I've got a younger sister as well. And three's always a crowd, by the way. You'll know that. If any of you are part of a set of three siblings or whatever, three is always a crowd. So my brother would, more often than not, would be, sort of like play with my sister or play with me, but whoever was the third in that would end up being the victim of whatever prank was being pulled together. So, if I, because Simon and I, my brother Simon, I'm Richard, hello, we shared a bedroom for absolutely years, because Mum and Dad never had that much money, so we always lived in 3-bedroom houses. We were lucky to live in 3-bedroom houses, not shoe boxes, on the tip, walking to school with no shoes on. Tell that to people today, etc. Look at the Three Yorkshiremen sketch. Monty Python, he's brilliant, he's inspired. But because of that, Simon and I got on really, 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 really well throughout all of our very early years, certainly our pre-pubescent years. We just kind of got on well. We were thick as thieves, us two. And then Mum and Dad had enough money to build an extension onto the house, where Simon got his own room. Now that year, Mum and Dad bought us this pair of tiny little walkie-talkie things. I think it's the years CB radios were allowed. Someone in the comments below will tell me what year that was in the UK. Well, we ended up with these little walkie-talkies. So whenever we used to go to crash out end of the day, we were told to go to bed. You had your bath, got to bed. We would chat for hours. Mum and Dad would be bellowing up the stairs. Go to sleep, you turds. Maybe the you turds bit was a bit much, but anyway, go to sleep. We would just chat, and then they got to these walkie-talkies, and we were in separate rooms, and we'd be chatting on the bloody walkie-talkies. Which was quite a sweet little innocent sort of part of our lives. Anyway, next door to us, nice family, John and Linda, and their son Jonathan. Jonathan was younger than us, and he also happened to get a pair of walkie-talkies that year. Now, quite why you buy an only son a pair of walkie-talkies, I don't know. But he was walking up and down the garden, and he could hear us talking on him. And we recognised his voice, but he didn't recognise ours. I don't know. But anyway, it's sort of like, we started, because we were both doing French at school, we started speaking in French. And we could hear him shouting outside, "Mummy, Mummy, I've got someone from France." And his mummy shouting, "Don't be so stupid, Jonathan. It's only a walkie-talkie." No, listen, they're talking in French. Well, that started. I mean, actually, I think it was an ongoing, shameful episode. It picking on poor Jonathan next door. And he was a nice lad, and I'm sure he's grown into a fantastic adult. I moved away from the area when I was 18, and I moved up to Manchester, so I really don't know, but it was we used to go round. I think part of the problem was, if I went back a little bit earlier, I was in secondary school, so I'd have certainly been in my teens. And Mum had to work, as did Dad, to raise money for the household. Because these were what people think, sacrifices people used to have to make. They didn't get given money. No, they had to earn it. There was a key put outside, so when we come home from school, we would let ourselves in. And my sister went to a convent school in Epsom. She got the privileged education, which she hated, and we got the secondary school education, which we hated. And the common denominator was we all hated education, but we were all picked on because we were all little short arse, politely spoken, well-behaved kids. Or so they thought. Right, Ringwood. So, Mum used to leave a key out for us because she was working until about 5:30. She worked in a shop in Surbiton, not far up the road. She worked in a shop in Surbiton, and she would be home at about 6 o'clock, cook our supper for us. We took it in turns to cook supper as well, that's the other thing, but we're not going to go into that. Cook our supper for us. And invariably, she'd come in the front door, and we would all be standing there like the bloody Von Trapp children, immaculately presented, fake smiles, etc., etc., etc. So, hello, have you had a nice day? And before we'd had a chance to answer, there would be a tap, tap, tap on the door. And we're thinking, oh, fucking hell, okay. We probably didn't even know the word fucking hell then. There'd be a tap, tap, tap on the door. And it would be our next door but one neighbours lived with their mother-in-law, and her name was Anne. Poor long-suffering Anne, and she was about this tall. Right, so if I was standing up, she'd be about 3'6" tall. And Mum would open the door, and the conversation was, and Mum would always say, "Oh, hello, Anne," and we'd be thinking, "Oh no, here we go again." And Anne would say something along the lines of, "I don't know if you knew, but..." And then there would be anything from, "There was a 65-foot fireball over your house this afternoon," to, "The boys were swearing," or "The boys were peeing out of a tree in Pine Walk," etc. Or "The boys were smoking." I didn't know if you knew, but the boys were smoking today in the garden. My mother would say, and she would defend us to the hilt every single time. Mum did not tolerate this sort of interference. It was her job bringing us up, and she had to work to maintain our standard of living, i.e. the house. So she had to work. And this sort of feedback for her, I'm pretty sure that she thought it was interference. So invariably, she would say, "Oh, Anne, thank you very much for letting me know, but yes, I did know, I did give them permission." And she'd shut the door, and then the bollocking would start. Oh my God. Now, Mum she's passed now, so she's not here to defend herself, but she was a good mum. She was a fucking taskmaster, I tell you. She really was. Oh God, we knew every single time, oh shit, I've done something wrong here. I really shouldn't have done that. I'm in trouble now. And we didn't get beaten or anything Victorian like that, but you knew you were getting a bollocking. You knew it. So, as a result of that, we no longer had access to the key. We had to, basically, when we came home from school, Simon and I, we had to go round to our neighbour's house, to Linda, because John worked, and have our supper with Jonathan. Jonathan was younger than my brother and I. He's probably about 3 or 4 years younger than me. And I was in my early teens, 12, 13, thereabouts. So he'd have been a little lad, but as a single child, he wanted for nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I don't think Simon or I certainly didn't. I can't really say for my brother. I wasn't jealous of him in any way whatsoever. I mean, he had toys that we dreamed of. And yeah, we would play with all this stuff. And like I said, there was no jealousy there because we didn't need to feel any jealousy for his existence against our existence. We all had, a level of privilege. Check your privilege. I'm going to be in trouble for that now. But it did enable Simon and me to start polluting his innocent mind. Now, I'm not putting it. I'm saying it's not sinister. So I don't know. He had a huge box of probably quite valuable dinky and corgi toy cars, and we showed him how to crush them in the vice in his dad's garage. Goes against my ethos of saving and protecting everything and using it for as long as I possibly could. This then came to a head probably about a day later, when all we could hear was Jonathan's dad, John. Oh, it's the fucking phone again. It was the wife. Update on the watch battery. She's got one for a £5. Anyway, they've got to pay their bloody electricity and their bloody rates and gone as well. So I said, yes, do it. Anyway, the upshot of Jonathan, teaching Jonathan how to crush his expensive, dinky, corgi toy cars in his dad's metal vice, was we heard this enormous row erupt from next door over the fence while we were sitting out in the garden having our supper at the weekend, with John, Jonathan's dad, screaming blue murder about what the hell are you doing. Poor Jonathan. Now, it was so cruel. We took such an innocent soul and used it mercilessly. No, I got my brother back a few times because my brother and I would. Sorry, I'm just banging the lid of the container. Let me just do that. Get to the fucker. My brother and I taunted each other to a certain extent. When I think the reason we did that with Jonathan, and it wasn't the only occasion, by the way. There were many, many, many more. I lived there for. I lived there for about 6-7 years or so. So 6-7 years worth of opportunities. No, it's more than that. I moved there when I was 9 and out when I was 18. There you go, 11 years. I can't do maths. 9 years. Yeah, so Simon and I used to taunt each other quite a lot, and I think that kind of does come across in that outtakes video that we did kind of get on. We just did stupid things like brothers would do when one person is definitely the victim and one person is definitely kind of the victor and has to run faster, be able to run faster. If you can't run faster, you're never the victor. You've always got to be able to get away. And I've seen it with my lads growing up, and I saw it certainly with my brother. Now, Prince Harry is mentally scarred because his brother shouted at him. This is someone that's in the Royal Navy. Sorry, in the army. In the army, someone shouted at me and broke my vagina. No, my brother and I would regularly joust, for want of a better word. Now, because I was a year older than him, I was in the year above at school. We both went to the same school. We both had the shit kicked out of us at school as well. And we most of our peers at school really were not there for the education. They weren't there for kind of learning or coming out with any sort of qualification. They were there really to kick the shit out of people like me and my brother. But we survived it. Made us stronger. What doesn't kill you will make you stronger. Anyway, so the couple of things, a couple of ways that I got my brother, which is recount some of the things here. So I think back in the phase when we did have access to the back door, we were allowed into the house when Mum wasn't. We quickly discovered the food cupboard. Oh yes, there's food in this cupboard, and I'm a bit peckish because I'm always peckish, etc. And we really, really, really quickly learned that if you get a block of marzipan, you can unwrap it really, really carefully, slice the top of it, hollow the middle out, put the top back on, wrap it back up again. Shit like that would take place, and depending on who was nearest Mum when she found out, would blame their sibling for the shenanigan. And it was sort of an it was an unwritten rule that when you were blamed, you just took it. Yeah, right. Because we were both up to the same sort of things. So a couple of things that I did. Simon, poor little bastard. We discovered the egg rag. Now the egg rag was hilarious. So Simon had very much into his baseball, so he had been given a baseball club because he was left-handed as well. We had a southpaw baseball club. My Matthews, my oldest son, is also left-handed, as was my mother-in-law. She's passed away as well, unfortunately. But a lot of left-handedness in the family. Anyway, so my brother was left-handed, and he got a baseball bat and a glove, and we got some eggs, and I convinced my brother that he would be able to hit an egg with his baseball bat. And I couldn't believe, he was like, yeah, all right, let's give it a go. Well, we were at the top end of the garden. The house we lived in, it had back garden. But bear in mind, we were south of London. We were only, 20 miles south of Charing Cross, in Ewell. And that garden was a third of an acre garden. It was a wilderness. There's fucking houses all over it now. But no, it was a wilderness. And of course, the first egg I pitched at Simon, he hits it, and he just gets covered in it, in his school uniform, absolutely covered in egg. And I'm on my knees, crying. And he's thinking, you bastard. So he's coming at me with a baseball bat. He didn't say you bastard, because he wouldn't have said that. We didn't swear. When my boys swear like troopers. Well, I don't seem to recall we swore then. I don't think people generally did. They might have done. Maybe I just blocked it out. Anyway, they come after me with this baseball bat and I had to run. So anyway, I managed to, I don't know how I managed to hold him off. Bear in mind, I was probably like 11 or 12 at the time. Managed to kind of like stop him from beating the crap out of me with his baseball bat. And we decided we were going to see if we could throw an egg across our neighbour's garden and into our next door but one neighbour's garden. Now, that might not seem like a challenge, but we lived on the outside edge of a corner, so the gardens all fanned out from each other. So the gardens were fairly wide, and it was quite a challenge. And next door to us lived my mum's uncle, uncle and aunt. Aunt had passed away by this point, I think. So it was Uncle Fred. My great Uncle Fred lived next door. He was brilliant. He'd lived in the house since it was built in the 1930s, and we moved in the 1970s. And he was he was a proper old gent. He actually, he was a fireman and fought the fires in London in the Blitz. He was involved in that, as was John, who lived over the road. Not John lived next door, but John lived over the road. We used to have these fascinating conversations with them, which for my school projects, because they both had lived in the area throughout the war. And this is back when education was about what was good about what this country's done, rather than the sins that have been committed by this country. So we were about promoting and understanding how great this country is. Whereas these days, no, you're not allowed to do that anymore. No, we've got to learn about how we kind of like have done everything wrong. We've fucked everything up. Yes, we have. But there's a lot of good stuff we've done as well. Which is nice, it's 49. Anyway, we'd exhausted the egg supply. Mum came home, and there was a tap, tap, tap on the door, and we're thinking, oh, fucking hell, it's Anne Beach. We didn't think fucking hell, it's Anne Beach. We thought, oh, darn it all, it's Anne Beach. I've just given her surname away now. That's well, I'm she's dead. Poor old girl. Rest in peace, Anne. We gave you a lot of entertainment, I'm sure. It was my Uncle Fred from next door, and he was there in his suit, like nice linen suit, and he'd splattered a couple of eggs on his suit, and he was holding a couple of eggs, and he's like, you can have these two back, they didn't break. Mum went absolutely nuts. She went ballistic, and poor old Uncle Fred in front of him. And poor old Uncle Fred was, oh, it's only supposed to be a joke. I didn't mean to get him into trouble. Oh. He was as big a boy as we were. He thought it was hilarious that we were lobbing these eggs over. So he'd obviously got into his kitchen, picked up a couple of his own eggs, splattered them on his shirt. Anyway, we got into such trouble with that. So, yeah, I think we might have had a hiding for that. I don't know. Back when you were allowed to. Well, I'm deeply harmed and scarred because of, having a hiding from my mother for doing something stupid. What else did we do? Oh, that was the egg situation. My dad always used to drain the oil out of his engine into a cut-out oil can. How much we've got left on this thing? Let's just have a quick look. Oh, fucking hell. Got an hour left on this. I'll be gone by then. Dad always used to do his own servicing. So he always used to buy his Castrol GTX, because he got that from Pat, who worked at Castrol. And he cut the side off the oil can and use it as an oil catch can to drain the old oil out of the engine. And that would always end up at the end of the garden for a bonfire. Get the bonfire going, tip the oil on it, it'll keep it going. Now, I had a bit of a reputation for being a pyromaniac as a lad, and if it wouldn't burn, I'd find some way of making it burn. I was a shit for it, I really was. So Simon and I were looking at this can of oil, and I'd already stashed a box of matches in the garage, so I managed to retrieve those. Oh, this is when the house was locked up as well. Stashed a box of matches in the garage, and I was flicking matches into this oil, and of course they were just going straight out. So this is boring. So I went and got some petrol out of the lawnmower, tipped that into it, flicked a match into it, of course, woof, it goes. And Simon, so we were watching this burning away, and after about 5 minutes I'm thinking, well, I only put like a teacup of bloody petrol and it's still going. I wonder why it's still going. Some physics lesson 101. Anyway, so I spat in it and of course get a fireball out. The oil's burning. Get a fireball out of it. So then Simon and me are taking the, spitting, taking turns to spit into the oil. And then Simon, when I went to go and get something, and I came back and Simon was getting ready to piss into it. Well, I thought, well, I'm just going to let him. Now that is not the 60-foot fireball that M. Beach saw. No. He did lose his fringe though. Poor bastard. Oh, it's another occasion where I'm on the floor needing an oxygen tent. Oh, I'm sure any of you that got brothers will have been up to the same sort of shenanigans, just stupidity. I'll tell you about the 60-foot fireball, and I think we might have to draw this to a close because I'm going to run out of material for the next episode otherwise. No, I'll never run out of material. We're going to get another beer first. Right, seems appropriate to have enjoy a bishop's finger. Shepherd Nean, Kentish, 5.4%. Oh, good. Brewed in Faversham. Bishop's finger. Why is it called Bishop's Finger? The print is far too fucking small on the back of this. I can't read that. Google it. Bishop's Finger. Shepherd's Neame. Oh, by the way, you can use fucking anything to open a bottle of beer. Basically, you hold the bottle, you brace the thing you've got to open it up with against the underside, and you push your thumb up. And every fucking time, it gets the lid off. So you can use anything you'd like to get a beer bottle top off. You don't need a bottle opener. Right, 60-foot fireball. So I've been to France, and on one of these kind of French day trips with school. This is way before the Sun go to France for a pound kind of things. Of course, when you're in France, the first thing you do is you try and pick up the newly playing card sets, the pocket knives, and the French bangers, which we were all told, do not buy these things. If you're bought these things, you're going to get like a month's worth of detentions. Because we all bought them. It's a fucking challenge. Why would you not buy them? So I came home with pocketfuls of these tiny little French bangers. They were about that sort of size, tiny little things. But they were really good. They were loud, and the fuse could be anything from 5 seconds to half a second, depending on, I guess, the mood of the person that created the fuse. So we had I got up a quick diversion before we get 60-foot fireball. We had a dog at the time, Jude, collie cross, beautiful little thing, rescued, and because she'd just be running around the garden all the time, jumping over the fences, visiting all the neighbours, crapping in our garden. We had to do the dog shit patrol, the dog crap patrol. Now, mostly that involved going around with a shovel, picking up the dog crap and hurling it into a pile at the end of the garden. And the end of the garden was 150 feet away, so we're not talking a short distance. But anyway, just lobbing it into the undergrowth. But I discovered that the best way of actually moving dog shit was actually to put a French banger in it and light it. That wasn't enough, though, for someone as insane as I am. Because I actually thought, do you know what would be really good is if I could time it such that I call my brother and he arrives on the scene just as it explodes. So, so I formulated this plan, and it happened, and it worked absolutely fucking beautifully. But it got there a bit too quick, and he was more or less on top of it, so I had to shout to get him to turn around, so this thing wasn't going to, like, blind him. No, he was absolutely covered in dog shit. He was not happy. Oh my God, yeah, there was another time of him chasing me around. I think that time he was chasing me around the garden with a bucket of water. Might have been that time. But anyway, he managed to corner me in the area by the side of our house, down towards the gate that went out into our driveway. And I got there, so Simon, come on, let's not do this water. No, come on, Simon. And my mum was pulling up the driveway in her Morris Marina, and I could hear Mum behind me. That's fantastic, I got away with this. And he still hurled the bucket of water at me. So I'm dripping wet, he's covered in shit. And Mum comes through, like, oh God. Oh dear, the French bangers and the dog shit was fucking hilarious. Poor lad, he was covered in it. The problem with that was that Simon kind of like decided this was a fantastic idea, despite the fact he was the victim in that particular case. Was he though? I think we were both victims. He was covered in shit, and I got caught and was dripping wet. He decided to collect all of the dog shit up in the garden and put it in a big pile on the patio, and then put a banger in it, because he thought Anyway, what it actually did was it distributed it all over the white render on the back of the house. So he got a bollocking for that. Why is there shit all over the back of the house? Oh my goodness, right. And a breather. Oh. Oh my goodness. Great memories though, huh? So 60-foot fireball. Now, how did that start? I think it was largely because of right. I couldn't even tell you whose idea it was, but it ended up with a plastic bag with probably about 1/4 gallon of petrol in it, tied up and resting on the swing which hung from the apple tree at the middle at the end of our garden, right in the middle, between the two boundary fences. So it's probably 30 or 40 feet off each of the fences. And the apple tree was actually, it's one of those things that was full of shoes. Because when we moved into the house, there was an old Anderson shelter beside the house, and when we kind of got into it, it's basically just full of crap, rubbish. There was a lot. I still got some of the tins, the tobacco tins and things that were in there, all kind of like, you know, 40s, 50s, 60s tobacco tins and stuff like that. I guess the previous owners did smoke. Okay, I hope they did. So there was a lot of tobacco tins. But there was an incredible amount of shoes in there as well. So Simon and me would kind of get this thing about tying the laces together and hurling them up into the tree so they didn't come down again. So this tree was full of fucking shoes tied together. They known as a shoe tree. Mum and Dad didn't care because we were doing that rather than kind of like hanging around outside the off license, which is what uncouth youths did in those days. There was no drugs or any shit like that. No one did anything like that. And it was the apple tree with all these shoes and things up it, and we had our swing hanging off underneath it. Just the swing was nailed to one of the branches. There was a platform half, because it was a good climbing tree as well. So we had an old door that I'd nailed onto a couple of the branches. So if you climbed up high enough, you could get onto the platform. You could poke your head out the top of the tree. It was fun. It's the thing that people used to. You can't learn about. It hurts when you fall out of a tree, unless you fall out of a tree. But anyway, we ended up with this 1/4 gallon of petrol. I ended up with this 1/4 gallon of petrol. My brother there, in a plastic bag, and we put it on the swing. I thought, well, the best thing to do with this is to put one of these little French bangers just underneath the bag, and light it. Now, bearing in mind the fuse was half a second or 5 seconds, depending on your luck. That might be seen as somewhat of a hazardous thing to do, but no, we proceeded. So we ran, and had enough time to turn round to see the fireball envelop the entire tree as it went up and above the tree. It was a cracker. It was a beauty. It went way above the top of the treetops. Now, John Vi, he was the firefighter who lived opposite us. John Vi, when I say firefighter, he was well retired. He was in his 80s back then. We were talking early 70s. He did comment that he saw a fireball above the ridge tiles of the roof on the other side of the house. I mean, we were a long way from the back of the house as well. But anyway, that was then. We thought, oh, that's a fantastic idea. Most of the shoes managed to not be on fire within a couple of minutes. We did have to clamber around the tree, pushing those out that were quite persistent. But I think most of the petrol kind of vaporised quite quickly as it went up. But there were bits that Simon and I had to panic, running around on this bloody tree, climbing up branches, trying to put shit out, thinking, oh my God, the tree's on fire. Suckheads. But yeah, that was the Mum comes home. I think she had Helen. I don't know if she had Helen, my sister with her. Mum comes home. Hello, lads. Tap, tap, tap. I don't know if you were aware, but there was a 60-foot fireball over your garden this afternoon. No, I wasn't aware, said Mum. But I'll find out and I'll let you know. Oh, bless him. Probably is a lot funnier for me than it is for you lot, but that was just, oh. I'll have a chat with my brother, because I need to find some where I was definitely the victim, because there are so many of them. But the ones where I had victory over my brother are the ones I remember. There's so many where he got me. Oh, I'll tell you one where he got me. He moved out, he got married 22, 23 years old, he got married, so I was 24. I've been up to Manchester. I moved back into home again. And I moved into home briefly. Simon moves out, dumps his entire and very extensive porn collection into my room, which Mum found, and then blames me. Fucking hell. Rule number 1, take it. Take it on the chin, sunshine. Take it. Yeah, cheers, Simon. Thanks for that, brother.